Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's Honoring Childhood Monthly Workshop. I'm really excited about this topic today, and I'm excited to go ahead and get started. So, we are going to share the screen, and we are going to, here we go. So, this month's topic is all about how we can embrace flexibility in our early childhood programs. Now, this is something that, at least I know from my own experience, that I've definitely struggled with, or I've definitely, you know, it's taken some work to move into embracing more flexibility in my practice with children. And so I'm excited to kind of dive into this and talk a little bit about it. So, with each one of my workshops, I always like to start with some goals. These are just some goals that I have for our time together. As always, I think it's important to understand the importance of self reflection in our work. It's going to come into play again in this topic as well. We're going to talk about the importance of flexibility in our practice and why being able to be more flexible during the day is important. We'll also unpack some reasons why the flexibility can be triggering or can make us uncomfortable. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can let go of some control. We're going to discuss how we can be flexible throughout the day with different times and different activities and times of our schedule throughout the day. And then at the end, as always, you will receive an action plan, like all my workshops, that will help you to really just put things down on paper and make tangible goals that you can use going into the next week. So, the first thing I always like to talk about is the importance of self reflection. I think that self reflection is one of the most important tools that we have, both in our work and in our personal lives. And so, I think it's always something really important to talk about. We're going to be talking a lot about self reflection when we start talking about why sometimes being flexible in our programs can make us uncomfortable. So, two parts of self reflection that I want you to think about tonight and that I want you to think about as you're watching this workshop. One is going to be your own experiences. So, I want you to be able to be open to reflecting on your life experiences, the experiences that you had as a child, the experience that you had in school, the experience that you had with family, with other adults. And we're going to touch a little bit on some specific things when we get further, but I want you to be thinking about the idea of your own experiences. And I also want you to think about what type of experience do you want the children to have? I think that this is a super important piece of our reflection because if we're able to understand from our own experiences what type of experience we want the children to have when they're with us, that's really going to help us figure out what we're doing, figure out what shifts we need to make, and really help us to create the best possible experience for the children. So, those are going to be the two pieces of self reflection that I think are going to be really important as we talk about this topic tonight. So, I want to start by just talking a little bit about why being flexible in our work is important. A lot of times we think that we have to do everything in a certain way, right? With the children, we have to make sure that this is done at this time. We have to make sure that this is done this way. We have to make sure that this is what we're playing with. This is what we're learning. This is what we're doing. And we're so focused on making sure that those things are all in line. We're so focused on making sure that we're doing everything right. We're doing everything at the right time. We're doing everything exactly when we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be doing it. And that can not really create a very positive experience for the children and for us as well, right? Because I know for me, I tend to get anxious a lot. If I'm trying to make sure that something is done this way, if I'm trying to make sure something's done by this time, I can get really anxious, I can get really overwhelmed. And those feelings that we have can bleed into the work that we do with the children, right? They can feel that, and that could cause them some of that same anxiety too, right? But also, this is something that I think about all the time is, we say it, every child is different, right? We say that all the time. Every child has different needs, every child has different wants, every child is different. We say that, but a lot of times we don't actually use that, right? So when it comes to the idea of flexibility, this is really important for us to be able to support all the children that we're working with, right? We can use the example of, you know, every October is dinosaur month. And every October we learn about dinosaurs. That's our theme for the month, right? And it's been that way every year. So every year we do that in October. Here's the issue with that. Number one, what if every child in that classroom is not interested in learning about dinosaurs, right? They're not interested in it. They're not going to gain anything that we're wanting or hoping for them to gain through it. Just like with adults, right? If we're learning about something or someone is trying to make us learn about something that we are not interested in, it's not going to stick. It's not going to be exciting, and we're not going to want to learn about it, right? So for me, if someone were to say that today I had to learn all about chemistry, I would not be interested in that. I would not want to learn about that. And so all of the things that the person was trying to teach me is not going to stick, it's not going to be exciting, and I'm not going to care. So we know that every child in that classroom might not care about dinosaurs, but we can't be flexible with it. This is what we're learning. We're learning this, so this is what we're doing. Not only every child in the class, but how about every class, right? If you're doing it year after year after year, why would we think or expect the children in our classroom this year to want to learn and do the same things from the children in a classroom that we had 5 years ago? Right. So it's this idea of being flexible in what it is that we're doing so that we can support all of the children. Right. And it's not just, with, what we're learning, right? There's lots of different ways that we can be flexible, but it's important because of the experience that we're creating for the children, right? Thinking about that reflection piece of what experience do we want them to have? Do we want them to have an experience where they feel like they're forced to learn something they don't care about, where they feel like they don't have any agency of their own to choose something, to do something different, to, you know, move about the room as they want, to, all those things, right? I want them to have an experience where they're excited, where they're looking forward to the things that we're learning, where they feel like they're a part of the learning, right? And when we bring that flexibility in, we can give them that experience, right? So let's take the dinosaur example. Every October, we talk about dinosaurs. Instead of that, we could say, hey, this is what we usually talk about right now is dinosaurs. Is anybody interested in learning about dinosaurs? What are some other things that you're interested in learning about? And giving that flexibility, allowing them the space to say something that they're interested in learning in, or expand on dinosaurs if that's what they're interested in learning. So the flexibility is important, not just for the children, right, but for us. So again, that feeling of, oh, I have to have everything done this way. I have to have it done at this time. I have to do this. All of that can be really anxiety inducing in us. And especially if, you're anything like me and already are kind of prone to being an anxious person. Um, which by the way, speaking about reflection, reflecting on our past experiences and really figuring out like, maybe I am prone to being anxious a lot because there was no flexibility for me when I was a child. There was no flexibility in time. There was no flexibility in what I was doing. So now as an adult, I tend to get really anxious, right? So being flexible can help alleviate that feeling for us as well and can help to give us just time to enjoy with the children, right? It can take so much off of our plate by being flexible. And it might not seem like it, right? Because we do get uncomfortable with the idea of things being different or things moving around or being flexible with our days. But once we're able to get past that, then we're going to be able to have a positive experience with the children. We're not going to be anxious and we're going to create something with them together. So flexibility is really important because it's a way to support all children. It's a way to support all abilities. It's a way to support all needs and wants. It's a way to support all learning styles. It's a way to support ourselves. Um, and it's also a way to ensure that the children aren't having the same experience that maybe we had, right? So, like I was saying, reflecting on my experience and knowing that maybe I am a little bit prone to anxiety because I wasn't given flexibility as a child. I don't want that experience to be their experience, right? So if I don't want that experience to be theirs, then I need to do something different. And this is how we do that. A lot of times, and again, speaking from my own experience, a lot of times starting to be flexible with our schedule, with our routine, with our program and our practice, that can really make us uncomfortable. And it really made me uncomfortable, right? It made me uncomfortable because I felt like as a teacher, I was supposed to do X, Y, and Z. These were the things that I was supposed to do as a teacher, right? And I needed to make sure that I did those things as a teacher in order for other people to see me as a good teacher. So it would make me uncomfortable if we had to change things around or if we had to do things differently or if we had to move away from the cut and dry schedule and the cut and dry idea of what we were doing. It also can make us uncomfortable because there's a control piece in that, right? There's a control piece in that. And when we think about education as a whole, when we think about the system of education, early education, so much of that is rooted in adult control. So much of just so much of just society's idea of children and who they are and what our role is with them as adults is rooted in control, right? So a lot of times when we think about having more flexibility in our program, when we think about those things, it may feel like we're losing control. And that can be really uncomfortable. And for me, that was something that I really had to figure out for myself. Because again, reflecting on my own experiences and realizing and recognizing that, maybe I tend to be a bit of a controlling person because I wasn't given any control as a child, right? Because I didn't have experiences where I was able to speak up or learn to speak up or be able to have a say in anything that I was doing. So now, as an adult, I'm overcompensating for that by trying to control every single thing that happens, including what's happening in the classroom. So when we start to think about flexibility in our programs, when we start to think about flexibility in our schedules, in our activities, um, a huge part of that discomfort can come from that need for control. And so it takes a lot of work on ourselves to move past that and to learn how to let go of that control, right? And it's not something that we're going to do and then it'll be done and it'll all be fine and great, right? It's something that is going to be a continuous journey. It's going to be continuous work because it's hard to um, make shifts. It's hard to change patterns, right? That we are used to. And as teachers and as educators, a lot of us are used to the idea of being in control and the idea of our days not being flexible because that is the experience we probably had as children in school. And that might have been the experience that we were taught to give as we were learning how to be teachers, right? So all of this past experience is coming in to what we're doing right now. All of our past experience in school and with teachers and how that was for us and everything that we were taught about what it meant to be a teacher. All of that is coming into play into what we're doing, right? So when I was younger in school, school was control based and the goal was compliance, right? So you sat in your assigned seat, you did not move, you didn't talk, you did your homework, you did the work, you spoke when spoken to, all of those things, right? And then as a child thinking like, I think I want to be a teacher. Then I'm thinking, okay, well, if I want to be a teacher, this is how I have to be. I have to be just like this teacher. So then we grow up with this idea that teaching is control and teaching is being a boss and teaching is all of this, right? And then we go into teacher education. And a lot of times we are taught that same way, especially if we were being taught how to be a teacher a few years ago, right? Years and years ago. Um, Things are a little bit different now, but a lot of times that's how we were taught. So that's why when we talk about switching things up, when we talk about doing things differently, when we talk about thinking differently about children, about our work, it can make us uncomfortable. The important thing to remember is that discomfort is ours to deal with. Our discomfort should not dictate what experience the children have. Our discomfort should not dictate the experience that the children have. That's our stuff to deal with, and it doesn't have anything to do with them, right? They shouldn't have to have the same experience as we had just because it makes us uncomfortable to do something different. And again, so much of this is about control. And it can be difficult for us to admit that we control things. It can be difficult for us to admit that we exert control in our classrooms or exert control over the children or just have an issue with control in general, right? Because there's a negative connotation behind that, right? And so we always will think that means that I'm bad. That means that I'm doing something wrong. That means that I'm not a good teacher. That means that I'm not a good person. All those things we tell ourselves, right? But in order to let go of control, we need to understand that all of this is a journey, right? And nothing about these things makes us a bad teacher, makes us a bad person. It just makes us someone who is responding to the experiences that we've had. And now we're somebody who is trying to think differently. right? So we got to let go of that shame and we got to give ourselves a little bit of grace. And then we have to realize that we are not in control. We are not in control. There are so many things in life that we are not in control of. And when we try so hard to keep control, when we try so hard to control the things around us, control what the children are doing, control what our classroom looks like, that can really take a toll on us. And it can make it so that we're not having a good experience with the children, right? So we have to be able to start letting go of this control. We have to start, you know, I was doing an interview for the podcast yesterday, and one of the episodes that'll come out in a few weeks, we were talking about this idea, and we were talking about this idea of letting go of control, what that means, how that can make us feel, and the ways in which we can do it, right? So, of course, it's going to make us a little bit uncomfortable, like everything, right? Making changes, making shifts, breaking cycles, doing things different is going to make us a little bit uncomfortable, right? And it doesn't have to be something that is an all at once thing, right? I feel like a lot of times, if you're anything like me, I'm like that too a lot, where it's like I feel like this is the change I want to make. And so now I need to make it and I need to make all the change right now and it needs to be done and it needs to be it. Instead, we can start working through change slowly, right? We can start by looking at different parts of our day, looking at different things that we've said or things that we've done. And we can begin to think, am I having unnecessary control in this one moment? In this one moment, in this one activity, in this one whatever, am I having too much unnecessary control? Just one thing. And we can recognize and say, maybe I am. Maybe I need to take a step back. And we can start slow and we can build that up from there. Looking at different parts of our day, little by little, to see where is that control going. That's how we can start to let go of it and start doing something different. We can also talk about this with the children. It is powerful to have conversations like this with children where you say, this is the way I've been doing things. I don't want to keep doing them that way because I want to create a better experience for you. This is what I'm going to try to do. I want you to know that so that you can help me create this experience for all of us, right? So letting go of that control, seeing where we're exerting unnecessary control are all important pieces to start this moving into being more flexible. Because not having flexibility in our program is directly correlated to our need for control. So if we're wanting to be more flexible in our program, we have to start letting go of some control. Now, let's talk about a few ways that we can practice some flexibility in our program. And I've put just a few sample examples here on the screen. And we're going to talk about each one of them and think about how we can be a little bit more flexible. So we can start with snack time and mealtime, right? So one shift that I made in the way that the children eat during the day is, yes, there may be times on our schedule um, that might not be dictated by us, that are for snack and for lunch, right? That could be based on the schedule of the entire school. That could be based on the schedule of the cook. That could be based on a lot of things. But we can still offer flexibility in this time. So, if the children bring food from home, snacks, lunches, things like that, we can offer them flexibility to eat at the times that they feel like they need to eat. So we can have lunch together. And if they don't want to finish their lunch, they don't have to finish it. Flexibility. And they can save it for later if they want it, right? That's been something that I've done where they don't finish their lunch and then later in the day they're hungry and they go and they get that leftover granola bar or that leftover applesauce or whatever it is and they eat it. Seeing where we have control in all of these is important too. So when it comes to snack time and meal time, all of that is typically very controlled by the adult, right? We eat at a certain time, we sit at a certain spot. Sometimes we may even have the kids' names on the table for where they need to sit during lunch. We start eating at the same time, we stop eating at the same time. This is when we eat. We don't eat after this. Eat all your food, all of those things, right? And so when we look at that, we can see, is there unnecessary control there? Yeah, of course there is, because why does any of that matter? Why does it matter? The children are going to eat when they're hungry. If they're not hungry, they're not going to eat. If they are hungry, they're going to eat. If it's throughout the day and they get hungry and they want a snack, cool, have a snack. And you can do the same thing. You could do the same thing too. Teaching the children to listen to their bodies, right? And not listen to what someone else says their body is feeling is really important. Another tip and another thing that I use during snack time um, is having like open snack, right? So having snack as just another activity or another thing to do in the classroom during the day, during the morning, during the afternoon. Here's snack. Snack is out on the table. Whoever wants snack can have it. And we're not, you know, all stopping what we're doing to go have snack. Snack is there. They can come and go as they please. And it really is, it takes so much stress off of us too. We put it there, all the utensils are there, have snack when you want it. And it really just creates a much more relaxing experience for snack time and for mealtime because those a lot of times those times during the day can be super stressful for us because we're trying to get all the children to the table. We're trying to get all the children their lunches. We're trying to make sure everyone is clean. We're also trying to set up all the nap beds, maybe. We're also trying to clean all the things, right? So if we practice some flexibility and we start to look at where we have control in snack time and mealtime, we can maybe make some of those changes. Looking at our schedule. Schedule is a big place where we can have flexibility, right? So it is important for children to have some semblance of a routine to know what goes on during the day, right? But it isn't necessary to have a schedule that is followed to a T every single day, no matter what is happening. We need to be able to let go of some control of that and offer some flexibility in the schedule. So, example, let's say we have our schedule is morning snack, activity time, outside time, lunch, right? Well, maybe the children aren't really feeling like they want to sit for an activity right after they have snack today. Maybe there's a lot of movement happening. Maybe the children are really excited, right? And maybe it would be better for us to get our energy out by going outside before we have activity time. That's flexibility in the schedule, right? And vice versa. Looking at the schedule, knowing what's coming, but also seeing how the children are reacting that day, seeing how the children are feeling that day, talking with the children about how they're feeling that day so that we can move things around if need be. Now, I know that sometimes it can be difficult to have flexibility in some of these things, like our schedule. If our schedule is not made for us and it's made based off of other classrooms in our school, right? Sometimes our outside schedule can be based off of everyone else's outside schedule because we only have one space to go outside and we all cannot be outside at once. So maybe we have to go outside at 10 o'clock because they're outside at 9 o'clock and they're outside at 11 o'clock, right? So maybe we can't switch those things, but we can still have flexibility in the day. So take that example. The kids have snack in the morning. Next is activity time inside, but you're noticing the kids are hyper or trying to run around or just really excited, and you know that they have some energy they need to get out. You also know that we actually can't go outside because the other class is outside right now. So there's still flexibility in, what activity could we maybe do inside that could help get some of that energy out since we can't go outside? Talking with the children about it. Seems like y'all really have a lot of energy. Would be really cool if we could go outside, but we can't go right now. But let's brainstorm some ways that we can get some of this energy out. That's how we can kind of show some flexibility in the schedule of the day. Following the children's lead, recognizing how they're feeling that day, and talking with them about it so that we can make sure that the schedule moves smoothly for everybody that's involved, right? Let's take a look at circle time. Circle time is a big, big place where we can have flexibility. It's also a big, big place where there is a ton of control. Circle time typically is rooted in control. The children sit on the carpet. They might have a specific space they need to sit on the carpet. We're sitting crisscross applesauce. Your eyes are up here on me. Here's the calendar. We're doing calendar. We're doing weather. We're doing book, whatever it is, right? These are all the things that we're doing. Sitting at circle time, listening to what I'm saying, repeating what I'm saying. We're done. So much of that is rooted in control, right? Even controlling if the children come to circle time. So the ways that we can show flexibility in circle time is not making it mandatory. If you don't want to come to circle time, don't come to circle time. Because also, if they're not wanting to be in circle time, if they're not wanting to sit with you, they're not going to get anything out of it. They're not going to enjoy their time and they're not going to gain anything from it, right? So starting the flexibility there. You don't have to come to circle time. We can also show flexibility in the way the children sit at circle time. They don't all have to sit crisscross. Lay down, stand up, sit in a chair, however is comfortable for your body to sit during this time is okay. Letting go of that control of how they're sitting because it doesn't matter, and giving them a little bit of control and flexibility in how they're sitting. The things that we talk about during circle time can be flexible too. I really enjoyed using circle time as a time to just talk, as a time to just talk about what was coming up with them, what they wanted to talk about, what I wanted to talk about, and a chance to let them know and discuss with them what was going to happen throughout the day. So we can be flexible with those things. It doesn't have to be this and this and this and this all the time. Because, I've done other workshops and other things about how inappropriate calendar time, weather time, all those things kind of are for young children and for circle time. So we don't even have to do any of those, in my opinion. But you can still be flexible with the things that you're doing during circle time, with if the children are coming to circle time, and with how they're sitting at circle time. All those things are ways that we can let go of that control and show a little bit more flexibility. When it comes to our activities, a lot of times the activities are based in control, where we choose the activities, we write the lesson plan, we decide what the children are going to do, instead of involving the children in creating the activities, involving the children in figuring out what it is that they want to do. This can be difficult, of course, if we have a curriculum or a lesson that we have to follow that was created by somebody else. But I spent many years doing that, and there was still flexibility that I was able to do in that. Flexibility in when we're doing what activities. This activity's in the morning, this activity's for the afternoon. Maybe I switched them today because that's how we were feeling. Maybe we enhanced an activity because the children wanted to do more. Maybe we scaled back an activity because they didn't really care. Maybe we switched activities completely because they had no interest in any of it. Maybe the children did any activity they wanted that day because that's how we were feeling. Reading the room, reading the feelings and emotions of everyone involved, and making shifts and changes to what we're doing is an important part of being flexible, right? Because again, if we're not interested in wanting to do something, if the children aren't interested in wanting to do something, what are we even getting out of it? Nothing but to say that we did it. And that's not really the experience that I want the children to have, right? So, looking at your activities, when you're writing your lesson plans, right? Thinking about, why am I the only one who thinks that I know everything the children are wanting to do? How about instead, I have conversations with them about the things they want to learn or what they're interested in, and then we can create activities together. Showing flexibility in that way can be really powerful experience, and the children are going to enjoy the activities even more because they're interested in them, because they thought about them, because you asked them about them, all of those things, right? So there's so much flexibility that can happen in the activities. Another thing is bathroom time, right? When the children are using the bathroom. So if the children are able to use the toilet, right? A lot of times, also, this is another thing for our own experience, right? Of when we were in school, having to ask to use the bathroom, wait to use the bathroom, all those things, right? Having to use the bathroom is a natural activity that should not be controlled. If your body is telling you that you need to use the bathroom, you need to use the bathroom. Children need to learn that they can listen to their body and go to the bathroom when they need to go to the bathroom. Seems like a simple thing when we say it that way, but a lot of times it's still rooted in control. You need to ask me to use the bathroom. You cannot go to the bathroom until this time. All of those things. Well, you were supposed to go to the bathroom before we came outside. Now we're outside, so you can't go to the bathroom. All of that needs to go away, right? For me, what I did was, you don't need to ask me to go to the bathroom, but I need to know that you're in the bathroom so I know where you are. So just telling me I'm going to the bathroom is fine. You don't need to ask for permission to listen to your own body. Full stop. So we need to make sure that we're having flexibility in that. If we're going outside, of course, hey, we're about to go outside. Let's check in and see if any of us need to use the bathroom. But just because I don't have to go to the bathroom right then doesn't mean that I'm not going to have to go to the bathroom when we're outside. It doesn't mean that if I do have to go to the bathroom outside, that now all of a sudden I can't because it's not time to go to the bathroom. We need to start thinking about that differently, because how would you feel if someone was telling you, well, you should have gone to the bathroom when I told you, and now you're going to have to wait? It's not good, right? It's not something we want the children to learn. We want them to start learning about their agency over their bodies and how they can listen to what their body needs, and that they have the right to do what their body needs. So that's the flexibility when it comes to the bathroom. Same thing with their own agency, right? Children have agency over their bodies, over their thoughts, over what they want, what they don't want. So we need to take the control out of that, right? Not just the bathroom, not just the eating, right? When your body's telling you you're hungry, but also with affection. When we're asking the children for hugs or holding their hands or wanting them to sit on our laps or any of those things, right? Making sure that we're asking them, making sure that we're respecting what they want, making sure that we're respecting their bodies, all of those things. Their agency when it comes to who they want to spend their time with, right? Not forcing them to play with people, not forcing people to play with them. Recognizing that children have agency over who they are, and we are not meant to control that. So being flexible with what the children are allowed to do with their bodies, with their moving, with their words, with their thoughts, all of those things. We need to give flexibility to that. And that goes right into movement, right? How often are we telling children, sit still, don't do this, sit right here, go sit over here, stand right here, don't run here, walk in here? We are constantly policing and controlling their movements. And sometimes they just need to move. Sometimes they just need to move their bodies, and we need to find ways to be flexible and allow that to happen. Obviously, there's safety to think about. Everyone is going to bring that up when I say that. That's where these conversations come in with the children. I see and I hear that you really want to run right now and that your body has a lot of energy to do that. I feel like it might be a little bit unsafe to run inside of here just because we have so many shelves and so many corners and you might get hurt. But let's brainstorm a way that you can get out that energy in a way that's safe for you and for everybody else. Maybe we're running in place. Maybe we're dancing. Maybe we have a little trampoline in class. Maybe, right? It's all about the flexibility in your thought process, right? Instead of the immediate desire to control and say no running without a thought as to what their body is needing. So, all of these are ways and times in which we can practice flexibility in our programs. And of course, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because number one, we're letting go of that control, which is not going to be easy. Number two, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable because it might be something new. And doing something new and changing the way you do something is going to be uncomfortable. But we need to make sure that we are using our reflection of what experience do we want the children to have. We need to make sure that we're using that reflection to help support the changes that we're making. Thinking back to our own experiences, like I was saying, when I was in school as a child, there was no flexibility. I ate when they told me to eat. I sat when they told me to sit down. I went to the bathroom when they allowed me to go to the bathroom. I moved my body when they allowed me to move my body. I gave them a hug whenever they asked me to. There was no flexibility. There was no agency. There was no anything. Now, because of that, me as an adult has difficulties with being anxious or having control, all of those things. There is a correlation between those things. We know that when we reflect. And if we know that, we know that the children's experience is going to correlate to who they are as adults. And I do not want them to have the same experience that I did. I want them to have a different experience. And the only way that they're going to have a different experience is if I give it to them. And if I work through my issues to make sure that I'm giving them that. Because again, my discomfort is not a reason for them to not be able to do something. My discomfort is not their problem, right? So when we're working to make these changes, it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be hard. But again, we don't have to do all these tomorrow. That's how I think sometimes, right? I think like, yep. love all of that, doing it all tomorrow. When we think that way, probably isn't going to work that way, and then we're going to get down on ourselves. So instead, I'm going to look at these and I'm going to think which one is easiest for me to start with. Maybe going to the bathroom. That's the easiest one for me to start with. They don't have to ask me anymore, and we can have that conversation tomorrow. I can work through that. We can work it. We can move to the next one. Figuring out in all of these times, in all of these little moments where I'm exerting unnecessary control and where I can add flexibility in each of these moments. Don't think about everything. Don't think about your whole day. Don't think about every single part of the day because that's going to overwhelm you and it's not going to work. Think about each little moment and pick a little moment of the day and think, is there too much control here? How can I say yes? How can I be flexible? That is going to be the best way for you to start making these changes. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something that we're going to think is in our way, right? They have to eat lunch at this time because they tell me. They have to go outside at this time because they tell me. They have to do this at circle time because they tell me. They can't go to the bathroom outside because they tell me. They have to do this activity, right? There's always going to be something, right? And so we need to make sure that we're not using that as an excuse to not practice these things because flexibility also is flexibility for us to be flexible with what we have to work with, right? So if there's things that you think are stopping you from doing these things, think differently and think about how you could be flexible with that. But I'm telling you, take it slow. If you're trying to move from a practice that has no flexibility to a practice that is all about flexibility, you got to do that slow. Take it one thing at a time. Have conversations with the children about it. This is how I want to be. I don't want to control this. I want to give you more flexibility and control. This is what I'm doing. This is what it's going to look like. Having those conversations with the children is super important and can not only be super helpful in this idea of flexibility, but it's just an amazing and powerful thing for the children to have a conversation like that with an adult, right? So, flexibility is important because it helps us to support all children, right? Helps us to support the children who are hungry when they're hungry, the children who have a hard time sitting, the children who aren't interested in the activities, the children who can't do the activities, the children who need to go outside, the children who, all of this. Also, it's going to take so much stress and anxiety off of us because we're not stuck to this schedule. We're not stuck to this rigid idea of what we need to do each day. And we can actually begin to enjoy the time that we have with the children. We can actually begin to create a collaborative space with them where we're all working together to create a great experience. Ooh. So after this is over, you're going to receive in your email the same email that you got the reflection sheet, and the same email that you got the link. You're going to the same email address. You're going to get an action plan. And I like to do action plans at the end of my workshops because I think that taking the things that we learned and writing it down and taking the time and effort to make a plan is going to really be helpful when we try to do it. Because I've been to a ton of PDs, a ton of workshops, and I've always thought, wow, this idea is great. I can't wait to do it. And then I get back to school and it's gone, right? So for me, writing things down, writing checklists, writing different ideas is important. I also want the action plan to be a living document, which means you might make some ideas tonight, go to your class tomorrow, do some of them, and maybe it doesn't work. Maybe you need to write some ideas about, maybe try this differently. Maybe don't do this. Maybe cross this one out and try something else, right? Obviously, the action plan is yours to use or not, depending on what is right for you. I've just found that it helps me, so I like to share it with others. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your Sunday evening. This is our relaxing day before the week, so I am grateful and appreciative of the time that you're spending with me. I love spending this time with you. I love having these workshops. Feel free to follow and reach out to me at any of these spaces. Um, the email, everything is honoring childhood, the email, my website, my Instagram, and my podcast. The third season of the podcast just went live this last week. It's now on YouTube as well, so you can watch the video of the podcast or listen to it on your podcast app. I have three books currently out. You can grab my latest book, just came out last week, From Control to Collaboration, which has a lot to do with this flexibility. So be sure to grab that. I still have a few copies left that are able to be personalized and signed by me and sent to you. If you'd like those, feel free to reach out. And make sure if you're not part of our community group on Facebook, make sure that you go join that. Just search Honoring Childhood, the community on Facebook, request to join, and that's where we talk about workshop topics. That's where we talk about different classes, different things that are happening. Lots of people are in that community, lots of people share. I really love it, and I would love for you to be a part of it as well. So you can just search Honoring Childhood, the community. You'll be in there, and then you'll be able to have a say in what next month's workshop is going to be about. So yeah, thank you so much again for joining me tonight. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so grateful for your time. I'm so grateful for your support. And I just want you to know that I know how hard our work is. I know how much we care. And I want you to know that I'm with you. And I want you to know that I see you and that I'm here for you. And I'm just so, so grateful that you are here with me. So thank you so much. Please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you. I would love to learn more about your practice and how I can support you and what you're doing. And enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. And I hope that you have an amazing week going forward. Bye, everybody.